Resident Evil has one tiny medical problem. Every playable character should have been dead before the first boss fight. Today, let's find out exactly where they actually die. I'm a nurse, so today we are treating the average Resident Evil protagonist like a rare trauma patient. No game mechanics, no plot armor, no magical herbs, just anatomy and physiology, and a medical chart that's about to become an obituary. Let's start where almost every Resident Evil game begins, a zombie bite. Forget the T-virus, forget the mold, forget every fictional infection in this franchise, because before any of those kill you, real bacteria get the first turn. People seriously underestimate human bites. Emergency departments don't. A human mouth is basically a crowded apartment complex for bacteria. Now imagine that mouth belongs to a corpse that's been wandering around the city for weeks. No toothbrush, no antibiotics, just rotten flesh, dead blood, and whatever it had for lunch, which was probably another human. Then it bites straight through your shoulder. Resident Evil wants you to worry about becoming a zombie. I'll be worried about surviving Tuesday. That wound is filthy. Bacteria are now being pushed deep into damaged tissue. Your immune system immediately starts fighting a war it never asked for. Fever, inflammation, rapid swelling, pain, and if the infection spreads into your bloodstream, congratulations. Your side quest is now septic shock. But watch what actually happens in the game. Leon grabs his shoulder. Claire shakes it off. Chris reloads his rifle. 5 seconds later, they're back to looking for keys shaped like chess pieces. That's the medical equivalent of someone getting hit by a truck, put on a band-aid, and saying, "Yeah, I think I'm good." No, you're absolutely not good. You're becoming tomorrow's ICU admission, assuming you make it there alive. But luckily, Resident Evil has the greatest invention in pharmaceutical history. Not antibiotics, not surgery, not blood transfusions, a spray can. Apparently, modern medicine has been wasting everyone's time. Our patient has made an interesting medical decision. Instead of going to a trauma center, he reaches for a can of first aid spray. Let's appreciate what just happened. A second ago, he was crushed into a concrete by a creature the size of a pickup truck. His ribs probably fractured. His lungs questionable. His internal bleeding very enthusiastic. But medical response? Psst. Problem solved. If healing injuries were this easy, ambulances would just carry Axe body spray. Broken femur? Spray it. Collapsed lung? Spray it. Multiple organ trauma? Double spray. Medicine would be incredibly affordable. But unfortunately, biology has declined to participate. Bones don't reconnect because they got misted. Damaged blood vessels don't politely seal themselves. And your liver doesn't regenerate just because it smelled eucalyptus. The best part, the game always gives you that tiny confidence boost afterward. One spray, little head nod, back to fighting monsters. Meanwhile, every trauma surgeon watching this just develop high blood pressure. But somehow, Resident Evil manages to invent a treatment that's even less believable. Because apparently, plants now have medical degrees. You are bleeding, probably dehydrated, possibly concussed. What should you do? Resident Evil has an answer. Find the nearest suspicious looking weed, pick it, and eat it without asking a single question. Not where it grows, not what's on it, not why it's glowing. Just consume. Let's remember where you found this miracle medicine. Inside an abandoned laboratory covered in dust, next to zombie corpses, surrounded by mold, blood, and things that honestly deserve their own quarantine zone. And somehow, that's considered pharmaceutical grade healthcare. Real medicine gets nervous if a sterile instrument touches the wrong surface. But Resident Evil says, found it in a public restroom? Eat it anyway. Then the game gets ambitious. Green herb, red herb, mix them together. Suddenly, they're stronger. Interesting. I've worked in healthcare for years. Not once have I seen a surgeon cancel an operation because someone combined two houseplants. If that worked, medical school could have been replaced by gardening tutorials. And, of course, hospitals would have smelled significantly better. So far, our patient has survived a zombie bite, treated major trauma with aerosol and followed it up with flour salad. You think things couldn't become more ridiculous. Then Ethan Winters loses a hand. At this point, our patient has ignored infection, replaced medicine with gardening, and treated catastrophic trauma with aerosol. So naturally, Resident Evil decides that anatomy is the next thing that needs to go. Let's talk about Ethan Winters, or as surgeons know him, the reason we drink. Ethan's hand is completely severed, gone, detached, no longer participating in Team Human. In real medicine, this is a disaster. We are talking emergency transport, microsurgery, a specialist, hours in the operating room, carefully reconnecting arteries, veins, tendons, muscles, nerves, tiny structures so small they make her look oversized. It's one of the most difficult procedures in modern surgery. Resident Evil solution? Pick hand up, pure magic juice on it, reattach, done. That's it. That's the treatment. No surgery, no rehabilitation, no complications, nothing. 5 seconds later, he's using that same hand to reload weapons, open doors, and commit acts of violence with remarkable accuracy. You know what impresses me the most? The confidence. Not Ethan's confidence. The game's confidence. Resident Evil presents this like it's completely normal, as if somewhere in the world there is a trauma surgeon watching this and going, "Ah yes, the glue." But even Ethan isn't the biggest medical problem in this franchise, because eventually Resident Evil stops violating anatomy and starts violating physics. Let's imagine you are a scientist. You weigh around 180 pounds. You inject yourself with an experimental virus. A few minutes later, you are now a screaming mountain of meat weighing over a ton. Wonderful, but a small question. Where did the extra body come from? Human beings are not 3D printers. You can't just generate thousands of pounds of muscle, bone, teeth, eyeballs, shoulder nonsense out of absolutely nothing. That's not biology. That's accounting fraud. Every cell in your body requires energy. Every gram of tissue requires raw material. Mass has to come from somewhere. But Resident Evil Mutations happened so fast. You think these people were secretly carrying an entire supermarket inside their jackets. And there is the heat, the amount of energy required to create that much tissue that quickly would be absurd. At that point, you are not just breaking biology anymore. You are also breaking thermodynamics, which brings us to the final diagnosis as well. Our patient was bitten by a corpse, treated major trauma with a spray can, ate suspicious floor vegetation, and finally watched the laws of physics get mocked in a dark alley. Medical outcome? Poor. Very poor. In fact, the average Resident Evil protagonist doesn't survive long enough to become the average Resident Evil protagonist. So, the next time a zombie tears a chunk out of your shoulder, don't reach for a herb, don't reach for a spray can, and definitely don't try to reattach your own hand with mystery liquid, because unlike Resident Evil, reality does not have save points. If you want me to dissect the medical logic of more games, subscribe. Tell me which game should be admitted to MedFrame next. Stay safe and remember, your organs don't have plot armor.